outside layer, right? You can see this. There's a lot of fatty tissue on this, but you can see this white part of the eye. It's the outside layer, right? You can see it in each other's eyes. So that's the sclera. And then there's this dark, like black middle layer. So what do you think that's called?
It's not the retina, but it's
The cornea? No, not the cornea.
the choroid.
Choroid. Okay, the choroid is the middle layer. And then the retina is this layer on top of it, so it's kind of gotten pulled away here. See this tissue?
That's what that was?
Yeah, so it usually lays on top of the entire choroid, right? It's that opaque layer, so that's the retina. And I can grab one of the other eyes and show you one that's still intact. But it all, see how it's all kind of being held to get in place?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all coming together in one spot, and the spot where it all comes together is where the optic nerve exits the eye. So that's the blind spot, or the optic disc, right? And so there aren't any photoreceptors there, which is why it's a blind spot.
Wait, so is the retina the optic cord? You're saying the optic?
What? I don't understand.
Where they exit out, that's the disc spot. But what is it? What's exiting out?
The optic nerve comes out of the eye there, right? So you
connects
have
the
all
eye
the
to the
photoreceptors
brain.
that are processing that information, and they're sending that to the optic nerve. The optic nerve exits that eye and then travels up and connects to the brain, remember? So that's just where it's exiting. And so let's see if we might not be able to find it on here. So this one's got too much tissue intact, but I'll show you that when we look at the intact retina. I'll show you one that has an intact optic nerve exiting. And then let's see if we can find it on here. So see how it's all connected right now? Right there, that's where the optic nerve exits and the blind spot is. So there's usually a lighter spot right next to the optic disc, right? You can see it's like a really light blue or like almost yellow color right there, that spot.
True.
So that's the fovea centralis. It's the highest concentration of photoreceptors in the eye, and it's where the lens should be focusing the light, theoretically, right, if you had normal vision. Okay. So fovea centralis. And then we can look here. So like I said, this little ball right there is the lens. Okay, it's what focuses the light when it enters the eye.
So it's not the pupil?
No, the pupil is just a hole.
Oh.
Is that what dilates?
Yeah, right. It's just a hole that gets bigger or smaller, and that's what lets
Bigger or smaller
Puts more light in.
over that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's what's actually allowing the light in, right? Okay, and then you can see there's this like gooey gel stuff behind the lens.
Vitreous humor.
Yeah.
That's the vitreous humor. Okay. And then the aqueous humor was in the eye too. You probably saw some of it coming out when you first opened it. So it's liquid. So I
Okay.
can't pin that, and you lose all of that when you cut the eye open. But the vitreous humor along with the aqueous humor are what's keeping the shape and the pressure in the eye, and they're pushing the lens. So when you open this up, you should have seen that the lens was right there. So that vitreous and aqueous humor are pushing the lens in place along the back of the ciliary body and the pupil. Okay, so like I was saying, you can see the opening there of the pupil. It's just a hole. And then there's all these little indentations around it. So that's the ciliary body. You can see that in the model. See, it's just like the little indentations on the inside.
Is that where the muscles are, or what?
Yeah, so so the ciliary body and the iris are actually muscles, right? And that's going to help be what's actually contracting or relaxing to change
To
the
move
shape
the
of the
lens.
pupil.
So is the iris
or the
the,
size of the
one
pupil. Yeah.
on there? That's the iris? Like the striations
You can't see
around
the
it?
iris.
Oh, you can't
The
actually
iris. So the iris you see from this part. The iris is the colored part of the eye. Okay. So when you look in here, you can see that, and it's underneath this clear part, which is the cornea. The cornea is just modified sclera. So remember, the sclera is the white of the eye, and it covers the entire eye. But when it's on top of the iris and the pupil, it's modified to be clear. So we call it the cornea. Okay. So that light can actually enter. And so underneath the cornea, you can see the iris. But these, when they're in the chemicals, it kind of gets cloudy, so you can't see it as clearly.
Did you say it was modified sclera or modified?
The cornea is modified sclera, right, to be clear. Okay? I think that's most of it. So then the lacrimal gland is here, which we already talked about. It produces that saline or tears, right, that are lubricating the eye. And then you have the suspensory ligaments, right? And then if you think about like these muscles would be attached to the oculomotor nerve, right? Because these muscles are what's actually controlling the eye's movement, looking left, right, up, down.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.